And, you know, if a baby's born and needs resuscitation, you need to help the baby to take a breath. The first breath is super important, and the first hug, the first embrace with mama. And when you have to do that job, resuscitate a baby, you don't think about it, you just do it. We're on automatic. Part of that is really good skills. We're trained really well. And then to take those skills to the next level, because I feel like this work, you can't separate the physicality of it from the spirituality of it.
This is a really special episode for me, and if you're a parent or if you're a soon-to-be parent, I think this is going to be really special for you too. Ibu Robin Lim that we join in this episode is one of the most powerful, one of the most remarkable women that I know in this world. She's been the midwife that has been with Lauren and myself through our last 3 home births. And as a man and as a father, being able to be there, witness and be present in those births, and especially with Robin just weaving the magic that we'll go into in this episode, have been some of the most transformational, impactful, powerful experiences that I've had in my life. And especially in this episode, we're going to be going into how do us men best support our partners going into childbirth and beyond. We really go into why Robin believes gentle birth heals Mother Earth, and also what's really important for when it comes to bringing in healthy new life into this world, and so much more. I've wanted to have this conversation for years now, since Sunny, the first birth that we had with Ibu Robin, and I'm ecstatic. I'm so happy that I get to share this with you, and I'd love to hear from you after this episode as well. So please share this out on social. Please tag me on social. I'd love to hear from you, because I really believe this is one of those conversations that not many people are having, and I want to bring it forth as well, and especially for the men, especially for the fathers. So ladies, if you're listening, if you know other guys that you think would be really able to get value out of this, please send this over to them, because I'd love to hear from both you and from them as well.
Robin, I just want to thank you from the absolute bottom of my heart. Driving up here knowing that we were going to see you and I was going to be able to sit down, like, this is something I've wanted to do actually for a really long time. And for context for everybody, Robin has been I don't even know how to say it. I think goddess is probably the closest word that comes to me, being able to bring in 3 of our children into this world. And as a man and as a male, to be able to be there to witness what happened in those births and to see how you do what you do is ineffable for me, because I'm just in awe the entire time. I was trying to write a piece the other week about our last birth with Noah, and the intense sensations of hearing the Hindu prayer getting sung, the heat of the pool, the amazingness of how yourself and Nevi and everyone that's here do what they do, being able to hold a space to allow Lauren and what I would imagine every other mother to go through the process that they need to go through, blows me away. And as a man, I just want to say a huge thank you, and we'll delve much more into it. But Robin, thank you so much. One more thing I think I have to really say, there was a higher intelligence at play that I really do believe brought Lauren and myself here to this island. And I really think it was actually to do what we did with you as well.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
I've been so honored to be a part of your family, really, and to also see how you and Lauren work together, because it's not something that you just witnessed the birth of your children. I feel like you fully participated, and with each one, an increasing amount of full immersion parenting right there. And that's what makes families strong, you know. And then we sang the Gayatri Mantra, Om Bhurvua Swaha Tatsavitur Varenyam. And I feel like if we could just get every single person on this planet to begin their life with the blessing of a song, a birth song, and with parents that want them and that work together and that welcome them into the world in the most beautiful way, that's how we create peace on earth. I really believe it. And that also because the two of you worked with the autonomy of your own health. You know, you took responsibility for being healthy people during the pregnancy, before the pregnancy, after the pregnancy. And that's why your children glow. That's why they're happy, healthy kids. And I feel like that's at the foundation of what you do as a father, what you do as a human being, what you offer the world is this autonomy and health that is so important. It's what I believe in. It's what I get up every day for. And in the middle of the night, I was up last night at 3 a.m. And so I'm a combination of exhausted and really high from the oxytocin of the birth. But, birth works when there's love. Because the hormone that drives the process is oxytocin, and that's the hormone of love. And I feel like it's what gives some people in the world that beautiful passion that they love what they do. It doesn't matter if someone wakes me up at 3 a.m. and says, you got to come down to Bumi say hi, because I'm working with my best friends and I'm doing what I love. And also I feel like I'm watching families be born. That each birth, it's a rebirth for the parents. It really is. It's beautiful. I have a friend that's a Maori elder, and he teaches Maori men how to be better partners and fathers.
Wow.
He's amazing. He's amazing. I mean, he pulls people out of prisons and he turns their lives around.
Wow.
And one of the things he says is that when your life partner is having a baby, you're both having a baby. And I would watch you two in prenatal care over the course of the 3 girls coming into the world, and you already had a daughter, and you were both pregnant. And the baby hears that. When a man says, oh, my wife's pregnant, the baby feels that little bit of separation because babies are listening. And they're the newest citizens of the world. We need to understand that they're listening. And when a man is right there during the prenatal care process, during the birth process and postpartum, holding hands with his partner, what he's saying is, we're pregnant, we're having a baby, and the baby feels and hears and experiences that commitment. And that is so important.
So I get asked by a lot of dads and a lot of soon-to-be dads advice, and which I feel like I do feel like I'm coming into my worth now, where I can kind of sit there and I have gone through some experiences now. But I would love to know, what is the advice that you would want to part onto the men, onto the fathers? Like, what is it, especially, let's say, coming into the birth of a child, and then after it, like, what is it that you see that a man needs to be able to do, need to be able to hold, need to be able to be for this magnificent event?
Well, we call them promised fathers when they're pregnant, because the father is also pregnant. When his partner's pregnant, he's pregnant. So he's a promised father or promised dad. And we do little things like we say, try to think of something that you would say to your baby, because remember, the baby knows the mother's voice, but the mother's voice is far away. The father can be right down there at the belly, singing to, talking to, experiencing the baby, hearing the baby with his own ear. Remember, we would have you put your ear on Lauren's belly?
Yeah.
And the baby feels all of that. So we notice that when the babies are born, as soon as they hear the father's voice, they'll turn their head and lift their head up and go for that voice. Because as a father, as a promised father, as you wait for that baby to grow in the womb of your partner, you're the most important voice. You're the primary sound. You're everything to that baby. And so we always say, get down there, sing, talk to the baby, say I love you, tell stories, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It just needs to be your voice, because that's the baby, it's primary for the baby.
I think it's really important for you to share that, because I've heard from a lot of other fathers that they felt very distant and apart during the pregnancy. And then for the first year, kind of after the birth as well, what could you help with fathers that might be feeling like there is a distance, or there just isn't that strong connection that they were maybe hoping to have?
Well, this is where I feel like for the promised fathers, this is where they need to man up. Because a real man gets down there and sings to his baby. He gets down on his knees and he hugs that belly and he talks to that baby. Not as just like sort of, oh, my wife's got a big belly now. No, it's like, this is our baby. This human being needs me, responds to my voice, and needs the reassurance, because we have a pretty scary world right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. I mean, there's a lot of strife. I mean, I'm talking to couples that had their babies here that are separated because the father's in the war in Ukraine and the mother had to walk to Poland with a baby and a child hand in hand. And they had their babies here with us, so we're very intimately involved with them. Those kinds of stories are going on. The pandemic has really been hard on people. I ask people when they call me long distance and I say, how are you doing? And people just fall apart. And that's okay. You need to fall apart sometimes. But just man up and get in there and be involved. And if you don't feel it at first, fake it till you make it. You will feel it. You will feel it. And getting those dads to be at the birth. We live in Bali. It's super magical here, as you said. And men were always involved in birth. Yeah. The father was expected to be there. And today we had a young Balinese man at 3 a.m, and he was outside. He said he was too scared. And Ibu Wayan Sudarni, one of our midwives, she walked out there. She brings him back with her arm around him and she says, she needs you. And he held on to her. And her strength, I saw it double, triple.
Wow.
Because he gave her all of his strength through that love. You can double and triple and even more your partner's energy just through the love that you feel. And the baby feels that. So get involved, and then breastfeeding,
Yeah.
I know a lot of mothers say, should I pump and then give him a bottle to give? But you know what? The nipple of the woman is reading all those cues from the baby.
Yes.
If the baby has a virus, if the baby has a bit of a temperature, that mom's nipple is going to make milk for the next feed based on what that baby needs, because there's that sensitive feedback going on. But what the father can do is he can run to the kitchen and bring her a smoothie. He can bring her that healthy drink that he knows she loves, because she's going to get dehydrated from all that quarts and quarts of milk going out. So, and that little bit of like, oh my gosh, he cares. It could be just a glass of water, but you give someone a glass of water with love in it, it's a healing elixir. And that smile that goes through the mother's whole body into the milk goes into your baby.
Yeah.
Every way that you can just be helpful,
I really appreciate that. And I think especially when it comes to the birth itself, thinking back to the last 3 births with you there, each one has just been mesmerizing. But obviously the most recent one with Noah, it was, I don't know how, I would love to know how you explain what it is that you do, because there is a magic behind it. There is something palpable that I can't describe with words. That is how you're able to, I saw Lauren feel so grounded, at ease, in her own power. And you were doing something that you, like, it's in the air. What is it that you're doing? How is it, like, what's the internal dialogue that you have, or what's the kind of process that you're going through to be able to have a mother go through that experience as well as they can?
I would say that there's a bit of a going into a zone, because there's so much oxytocin, so much love hormone. And I know that I go into a zone. And Navy and I talk about this. Navy and I work together a lot, and all of our midwives, our bidans here, we talk about how we get in a zone. And we can see sometimes on the face of one of the, maybe it's the dad, or maybe it's the mother's mother, maybe it's someone in the family. We can sense if that person is worried. And then sometimes it only takes a touch or a look or a glass of water, or it can be the smallest thing. But when you're in the zone, you know exactly what to do. And we've all, as midwives, and everyone in medicine has experienced emergencies. And, if a baby's born and needs resuscitation, you need to help the baby to take a breath, because the first breath is super important, and the first hug, the first embrace with mama. And when you have to do that job, resuscitate a baby, you don't think about it, you just do it. We're on automatic. Part of that is really good skills. We're trained really well. And then to take those skills to the next level, because I feel like this work, you can't separate the physicality of it from the spirituality of it. It is a super spiritual path. And so to be able to get the ego out of the way, not think about yourself, because you don't, your own comfort, you're so comfortable physically when you're in that zone. I mean, you can go into a birth with a horrible backache and you completely forget. And then days later, you're like, oh yeah, I had a backache. Because it's such a healing environment. And it never gets old. It's so miraculous.
How many births have you attended?
Well, we were just looking at our statistics. So Bali Australia's done over 15,000 births.
Wow.
And I've probably been at least a third of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot.
That's incredible. You go back.
It's so special each way.
Oh, I want to help as much as possible. One reason why I wanted to do this, selfishly, I just want to be able to sit down and jam with you. But I think one reason I want to be able to share a message, especially to the men in the world, to be able to be like, this is an incredible experience. And also, how can we become the best man to be able to be in this situation? And I think for me, it's a case of seeing you manage the energy in the room. And I remember very clearly with Noah's birth, Lauren was on one knee, like on a kneeling position with her forearms on the couch.
I remember that.
And she was there for a little while, and you very much knew, let's get her into the pool. It's time right now. And from the moment we got Lauren into the pool, it was minutes until Noah came into this world so much. Is it a case of the ability to understand someone like the mother's energy and how the baby's going as well? Because I just feel like you've just got something mystical of being able to understand what's happening.
Well, the sound she was making really changed.
Yeah. So sorry, can I say something to this? Please? I know you just said something to sound with Sonny's birth. So that would have been 6.5 years ago.
Yes.
I remember we're in the bedroom. You were lying down. It was maybe 6 p.m., 7 p.m. You were lying down on our bed, and Lauren made a different noise. And I was like, oh, that was different. And then that's when you got up, calmly and gently came over, and then it was just that immediate, like everything started from then. And it was like the noise, and I could almost I was wanting to see how you were acting and being able to control everything, and you have that succinct brilliance of picking up on that like tiny difference of a noise that a mother would make that signified something that you knew what was happening.
Yeah. Something changes, and something feels different in the air. It's like you can almost hear a click, like the stargates open. I remember being at a really beautiful couple's house that they had. I mean, it was a beautiful villa that they'd rented. There was something about the energy there that was like which just didn't feel good. I mean, one of the things that Navy and I always talk about is when we arrive at your house, it always feels so amazing. There's just a love there. It's like you can cut it. It's like, yes, it's thick. And it just didn't feel right. And it was a second time mom, and she was having such a long, difficult labor. And I started to go all around the house. And I started to try to feel where it was going to feel good. And then I saw outside the landlady was walking by, a Balinese woman who I recognized because Kadek had both her children at Bali Australia with us. And so I ran outside and I said, Ibu Kadek, you know this family? And she says, oh yeah, my husband and I built this house. It's our rental. And she said, do you like it? I go, well, it's really beautiful, but there's something not right. And she said, well, this family subleases it from another family. The family that leases it doesn't want any Balinese offerings. They don't want us to pray here at all.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, but does this family oppose to that? Because they seem fine.
Yeah.
And she said, no, but they're kind of guests here. They subleased it. And I said, can you go home and quickly get some Balinese offerings and then put them on the Padma, the little temple? And she said, I would love to. And she went and came back with a big basket of offerings, lickety split. And meanwhile, we got the mother and the father just alone together for a minute and just looking at each other standing, and he was holding her rocking. And then I said, why don't you take a trip up the stairs? Because the baby was hung really, really high, and much higher than was normal for a baby at this point in the labor. So she went up the stairs with him, and then he guided her down. She went up again. I said, 2 steps at a time. So you're really, lunging and stretching and opening your hips. And then she came down, and as soon as she looked up and she saw through the doorway, she saw her friend, Ibu Kadek, put the offerings on the little Padma. She fell to her knees and she said, I'm having the baby right now.
Oh, wow.
And she did. I mean, Navy and I were ready. She gave birth right there.
Wow.
She had kind of a bedroom area set up, but when she saw the offerings, she gave birth in a living room area. And she was so happy. She felt there was energy stuck. And then after that, they always had offerings there. Yeah. It was a beautiful lesson.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
When you say at the beginning of this conversation how birth is so important, and I completely agree with you, and I'd love to help with that mission as much as possible, with everyone being able to have such an amazing birth and how that brings peace to the world. How do we as an individual first make that mission happen? How do we help birth? Or maybe let me ask it this way, actually, and come from the other angle. What are the beliefs that you see, especially the Western modern cultural world has about birth, that you don't agree with?
Well, I feel like birth is definitely a combination, like all things. In Bali, we say Tri Hirta Karana. Human beings' relationship with human beings' relationship with nature, and human beings' relationship with spirit, or whatever is God or goddess to you. What makes your soul sing. And so all of those things, birth is like the culmination, the fulcrum of that. And we need to protect our newborn, brand new citizens of the world from any kind of trauma. So, for example, in Western medicine, so often in hospitals, they immediately clamp and cut the umbilical cord. So 1/3 or more of the baby's blood supply is still in that umbilical cord, trying to travel to the baby from the placenta. What is that full of? Stem cells. Everybody needs stem cells. It's your once in a lifetime transfusion of stem cells from your placenta into your body as a baby. And you need that. It's a human right. So we, of course, accommodate that by not clapping and cutting the cord right away, as you saw with all of your daughter's births. We also never separate mother from baby. We don't separate families as well. We really try to, sometimes the dad might get busy doing something in another room because, he's doing what men do, caring and preparing and getting things ready and setting the environment and protecting. Protecting is a big one for men. So they feel like they have to make all this happen. And sometimes they're just in the next room. I'll say, hold on, hold this energy, and I'll go get him because he needs to be there. He really does. And it's just a beautiful thing. So birth is this fulcrum of the most intense, like they say that, it's the most intense, challenging, I would say. It's not suffering because that's different, but it's painful. And so this pain, which is not suffering, it's like a glorious pain. This pain is the most intense thing you can feel in a physical body without dying. That, and then you do have to go to the land of the spirits. You saw Lauren go there and bring her baby back. The baby's soul is nearby, but the mother has to do that. So it's a super spiritual experience.
Can you describe that more? Because I saw Lauren go through that 4 times, and as a man in the outside, I could see something happening. I want to be as spiritually connected, let's say, as I possibly could, but I can't really empathize with that. What's going on there?
Well, it's an old Native American beliefs. My mother's Filipino, and I have this incredible birth keeper history in that my grandmother and my great-grandmother and my great-great-grandmother, they all were baby catchers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the mountains in the Philippines, before there were hospitals, during wars. And so I have that. And then I have my father he's American, He's a little bit Native American. And so that Native American blood of his, he wasn't so connected to it because at the time he was growing up, it was something you were ashamed of. But by the time I was growing up, when I was like, no, we should be proud of this. And so I really tried to listen to that wisdom. And the wisdom that comes from the elders and from our ancestors is that the mother does go to the land of the souls and she brings her baby back, and the baby helps her practice that, because there's sometimes during the pregnancy where the mother will be dreaming and then she'll really feel connected to her baby. And then other times she'll go, gosh, I don't feel connected to the baby. I feel like the baby went somewhere, because babies do travel with their spirits. They astral travel all over and then they come back. And so they let the mother know, I'm here. And then sometimes, especially if the mother's really sensitive, she'll say, well, that baby checked out for a few hours. I felt the baby's body, but I didn't feel the spirit. But during the birth, the mother has to go there and bring that baby back. So we really try to be culturally appropriate with each mother. That's why no matter what her religion is, we sing that song. We have a lot of baby girls named Grace from the Christian families, because we sing Amazing Grace. And we just have to acknowledge that it is not just a physical event, and it's not an emergency unless it becomes an emergency. And then when it becomes an emergency, you have to practice your skills so automatically and perfectly while holding a spiritual space. That's really important. And I feel like since you've dipped into it now for each of your baby's births, it's like a dyeing of a cloth. If you want to make a beautiful color, you don't just soak it, because then the cloth rots.
Yes.
But as you dip in and then you pull it out, and you dip in and pull it out. So now you've had that experience and you have this, I want to call it a power. It's like a superpower. It's like right now your wife is breastfeeding. So with Lauren breastfeeding, she has that superpower. And your superpower is you've been able to dip in with her to that spiritual space and to hold that protective space, because a man has to protect. What's going on spiritually, we don't know. And that is your job as a man. All daddies, their job is to protect. And so now you've done it for all of your daughters, and you have that superpower now. That's just like, it's always going to walk with you. You're never going to lay that down. And I do feel like that's part of the Native American wisdom, is that the father becomes the protector, and him being there is so important.
I definitely have felt, and I was reflecting on this recently, how when Lauren's given birth to one of her children, let's use Noah as the example, there was a birth of a child and there was a rebirth of Lauren as well. And then I could even say there was a rebirth of us as a family, as a unit as well. How can you help someone understand? And for me, I think because selfishly, I want to be the best man I can, especially so I can help and support the children, but also Lauren. And I'm trying to make sure I be as conscious as possible for that. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are when it comes to what's your advice for men being able to best support and be the person they need to be for their partners. What would that be? So
when you realize as a man, first of all, it seems to me, and I again, like you talk about not being able to empathize fully with things that women experience. As a woman, I can't empathize fully with things that you get to experience as a man. But what I experienced as a mother, especially, it changed when I had a boy. I thought, I got this mothering thing down, and I'm having a girl. I didn't know I was having a boy the second time, but I was like, I'll just do it it'll be exactly the same. It was very different. And then I found it was different with each child. It wasn't just gender, but gender was big. But I feel like when I empower, for example, my grown sons who are married and have children, when I empower them to be protectors, when I empower my husband to be the family protector, it's just such a great thing. It's like something it took me a while to learn, to really empower the men in my life to be the protectors that they were born to be. And it's a magical thing, because when they get that you're empowering them, it's just so special. So what we really try to do with each birth is empower that father to really acknowledge his protection. And the thing is as midwives, as birth keepers, we feel the difference, I mean, we've even had mothers who came from other islands. They might be here from Jakarta, and the husband could not be here, or the husband's working overseas. We Skype that dad in.
Wow. Cool.
And we tell him to get in his prayer space and to get in his protective space, because even if he can't physically be there, we can Skype him in. You know, we've had like iPads.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing. It's
Wow.
amazing the difference it makes.
Mm.
So we really feel like that blessing of being, and can you imagine if every person walking around the earth was truly being welcomed by both the mother and the father? Because there's a big piece missing. And a lot of people have a lot of trauma because they didn't feel like they were wanted. And even if you weren't wanted at the beginning of the pregnancy, maybe the couple was conflicted, maybe things weren't working out, you know, at the end, it's possible. I feel like human beings are so incredibly willing to be healed. They're open to healing. I mean, I've had mothers fall on their knees in labor and say, I didn't want my baby in the beginning. And, you know, we just sit with that. We don't say much, you know, but we reassure them that, you know what? Your baby wanted you.
Mm.
And so here you are now. Welcome this baby. Bring this baby into the world. Because only you can do this for this human being. It's so powerful. It's just, I mean, we saw a relationship where the man just came, he was going to drop her off, and they were breaking up. That was it. He was done. And she was brokenhearted, and she was in labor. And I asked him if he could just stay outside the birth room and just hold energy. And he said, yeah, I'll do that. And then, you know, during the next 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, he started to want to be there, you know? And we were running around. We were like, we sent someone out to get him food and to get him something, you know, to drink, get him a coconut. And we nurtured him as a father because we knew that she needed him. And about 15 minutes before the baby was born, I came outside and I said, you know, I know that this is a really hard thing for you to do, but I wish that you would kind of man up for me and come in here and support this woman. She's going to give birth to your child. And she needs you right now. And he came in. And about a year later, they came back.
Wow.
And they were so in love and so together. I mean, the bond between them. I mean, he was there. And not only was he there, he was just crying and crying and crying. And we had him put his hands on his baby. And he said to this little girl, he said, I'm sorry, I didn't know I wanted you.
Oh.
Thank you for being my baby. And they're like such a happy family.
Wow.
And it was the fulcrum of birth. If we just let him drop her off and drive away, never would have happened.
Yep.
Never. So, I mean, we felt like, yes, the Cowboys don't get any points for that birth, and the Indians get about 5 points.
I love it.
Really good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How do we as individuals and as a collective best support midwifery?
I feel like it begins with believing in your partner. If a man believes in his partner, no matter how the birth unfolds, you know, if she has a beautiful natural water birth just the way she had planned it or wanted it, or if she ends up with the need for a belly birth or a cesarean, because sometimes that's part of acknowledging human beings' relationship with humans, because that's science. You know, you have a relationship with science, you have a relationship with spirit, and you know, you have a relationship with your, you know, it's so important, all of the parts, you know, relationship with yourself, relationship with science, relationship with spirit. And so, that's sometimes a belly birth happens, but no matter what happens, just as a man, believing in your partner and holding her up is super, super important. And I feel like it protects the baby in a way that I can't put words to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're putting a net of protection, a spiritual net of protection around that child, no matter what. And it can be really hard. I remember my daughter, she's a doctor and she has her PhD in reproductive health, and she's an amazing healer. And her first baby, the placenta came off. Because we're having a lot of big emergencies associated with climate change. They lived in California where the fires burned a third of their town, and all of those plastics went into the water table. So people's hair was falling out, And all these things were happening to people's health, and it had a profound effect on placentas. So lots and lots of doctors and midwives and nurses were telling me that placentas were coming loose. And sure enough, it happened to my daughter. So she's 7 centimeters dilated. We had to go in for an emergency belly birth or cesarean. Science saved my grandson's life and my daughter's life. I mean, honestly, because the amount of hemorrhaging that can happen is very profound. And for my son-in-law, he's my son-in-law, but he's also my son-in-law. He was so upset because he suddenly felt like he could no longer protect her. The role that he had rehearsed was this beautiful natural birth at a birth center. And it didn't unfold that way. And it was really reassuring for him when in the postpartum he could heal that by being really there. You know, I remember my daughter being exhausted after this full intense operation, and he was exhausted too. But when the baby had his first poos, he's like, can I do that? I'm like, let's have a lesson in how to change a diaper.
Yeah.
And we even talked about it as a family, you know, like the women do input, so the men can do output. You can do the diapering. That's not rocket science, but it's so appreciated by the baby. And it became his thing with his son. And by the time that they had their second baby, which was 2 years later, he was so ready to do that birth. And I remember them being in the warm shower together because it was the only thing that could relieve some of the intensity of the labor for my daughter.
Yeah.
And they were in the shower forever and ever. And I said, I mean, have you now emptied the Austin aqueduct? Because we turned it on real low because we didn't want to like just be wasting water because there is a drought going on. And somehow the tub didn't work with my daughter. She didn't feel good in the tub. But this trickling of water on her, and he was in the shower with her for so long. And 9 hours later, when she had that baby, they were in and out, but they were mostly in the shower. And I said to my son-in-law, I said, when did you pee? I didn't see you leave my daughter's side. You know, a couple times, my friend who was there was also a midwife. She took a piece of a granola bar and shoved it in his mouth and, you know, gave him a drink of tea.
Yeah.
But he did not leave her side. And he said, well, I have to tell you, in the shower, I peed my pants.
Very good.
And I was like, you know what? That's what a real man does.
Yeah.
That is really, and I see it in the way they relate. It's in the way that, you know, when they all had COVID, you know, so he had a little baby. Her COVID only lasted a couple hours, but you know, a 2.5-year-old with COVID and a mommy and a daddy with COVID, and they were in isolation for 10 days in their little house, which was right next door to me. So I was bringing them food and like doorbell ditching it. But when they went through that, I feel like what got them through that was that 9 hours in the shower where he never left her side, you know? Right. And I've heard her say to friends, whatever you do, marry the guy that's going to go the distance with you. You know, and when he's scared, he's going to go more toward you, not run away.
Really good. Last question, Robin. What's the message that you and your work wants to leave behind?
Well, I feel like I believe in families, you know, and I do deep in my heart really understand how gentle birth does help save Mother Earth, you know. Because when a child is born without trauma, without separation from mother, your relationship with mother is related to what your relationship with the earth mother will be. So when you have that solid, trauma-free relationship with your mom, then you can really treat the earth mom with the kind of respect that we need from every single individual, or it's going to be too late. We don't have a lot of time. So I feel like as midwives, as birth keepers, we fight for every single baby to have a trauma-free, gentle landing on this earth because we're fighting for the very survival of our species and all species. This earth mother needs us all to walk gently on her. And how can we walk gently when we're torn apart inside? You know, so we have to stop the birth trauma. Most human beings of my generation that I know, spent 20, 30, or 40 years just healing their birth trauma. You know? Incredible. And when you get through it and you wake up one day and you realize how much love is available to you and how much this earth loves us and supports us and holds us up every day and every night, constantly, our entire lives, when you wake up to that, it's amazing. And I'm so proud of the fact that this team of midwives, and we have 6 Bumi Sehats, 2 in the Philippines and 4 in Indonesia.
Amazing.
So these teams of midwives, every single time we bring a child gently into the world and skin to skin with mommy and daddy right there, and really hold the family in that sacred space and heal that family. Every time that we make space for the healing of that family and the amazing blossoming of that family, then we know that we are doing our best to protect this earth.
I love you, Robin. I appreciate you so much. I really, really do. No, from the bottom of my heart, I know I'm a better man, I'm a better father, I'm a better husband because of you, because of the influence that you have had on me. And I think it's absolutely remarkable. I feel so blessed that you have had this influence on me, and I've been able to spend this time around with you and seeing the amount of love and wisdom you've shared with Lauren and with our family is just utterly remarkable, utterly remarkable. So thank you so much, Robin. I love you, I respect you, I admire you, you're incredible, and you've made my life better, so thank you.
Thank you. It really, really helps us midwives when we see fathers step up to the job. And I'm not going to pretend that it's easy. I know it's not easy for you. I know it's a difficult job. And it's long nights, it's exhaustion, it's walking a sick baby that's vomited all over your back. It's all those things. And then watching those children grow and eclipse you. I mean, watching my children grow up and become parents and then becoming grandparents has been, for me, amazing. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to knowing you and Lauren through all of the changes. And I hope that I'm here to receive your grandchildren.
Oh,
I know.
that melts my heart. That melts my heart. Incredible. Last question. What is the best way the viewer can best support yourself and Bumi Sehat?
Well, you can always donate money.
Perfect.
We need that. I mean, it costs a lot of money to run clinics, especially for the poor. They're free. Mm-hmm. We run on donations. And through the pandemic, one of the take-homes for me has been, because we started this, 2.5 years ago or so, with a lot of is it really going to happen? And then the fear set in. You know, most of us know someone who died. I mean, I have a few close people that died, including a 17-year-old boy who was born into my hands.
Wow.
Yeah, that was hard. And my cousin, my closest cousin in the Philippines, one of our midwives in Papua, she's a wonderful woman. And she was here with us, February, March, and in July, COVID took her like that. And so we went through all these fears and we went through all of these changes. And for a lot of people got really stuck in the fear and all, the whole thing of whether to be vaccinated or not. What I felt like everybody got to learn was to honor everyone's inner knowing. No matter what their decision was, we need to honor that. And that's as a medical professional I was able to do. And I felt like that was a big take home for me. But what was profoundly moving was how the people that contribute to Bumi Sehat, our supporters, our donors, they went through so much financial strife, and yet they kept all 6 clinics open.
Wow.
I mean, at one point, we met as a team, and the whole board was saying to me, Ibu Robin, you have to be ready, maybe to close a clinic or 2. And I just said, I can't do it. I absolutely refuse to think about that. I mean, how do you choose to close a clinic that's serving so many communities that are so in need? I mean, what's going on in Lombok and Papua and Aceh, where they had the tsunami, and then our clinics in the Philippines, where they had the huge typhoons, and they had another typhoon this December. And how do you choose to close one? And I kept holding the energy and praying and loving and devoting. Every single time we're in that oxytocic, incredible bubble of birth in that zone, just to hold that prayer space. I'm not really good at going to church and getting on my knees and praying, but I'm really good at feeling the prayer space that's created by a family when they're bringing a baby into the world. And Bumi Sehat has not had to close any of our clinics. And we are not suffering at the moment, which there have been times when I've like literally gone to sleep crying because how are we going to pay the electric bill? And yet every single time the community that cares for us has come through. Just thank you. It's been amazing. It's been amazing to see, and also restoring my faith every day and renewing it in humanity. You know, some of our T-shirts say "Stay human" on the back.
Yeah.
And they have a human heart with wings, and that was one of our gifts from Michael Franti. He loves Bumi Sehat, and he always teaches people to stay human. And our contributors and supporters have stayed human for us.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Robin.
It's incredible.
You're incredible. You're incredible. You really are. So thank you so much for joining us. I really hope you appreciated this. I know Ibu Robin is one of the most marvelous people I know in this entire world. And I'll pop a link down so you can be able to support the work that Ibu Robin is doing and Bumi Sehat. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thank you.